Welcome to the Berea Podcast. This is Troy, one of your hosts. Della is unable to come to the microphone again today. But we have something special to share with you. From time to time, we share different podcasts that are being recorded here in Berea. I have a special one for you. The name of the podcast is That's What We Said. The hosts are Jenny, Becca, Katie, and Kelly. The fun part is sometimes they use the front porch studio to do their recording, and their laughter blows the doors off the hinges as they record. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this recent episode of the That's What We Said podcast. Its title is Margarita Sippy Cup. I'm going to play their episode in its entirety. So join us again next week for another episode of the Berea Podcast. Enjoy.
Welcome to That's What We Said. We are four women in Berea, Kentucky, exploring our places in the world. And we're coming to you via Zoom as the coronavirus cases continue to increase here in Kentucky. We are definitely looking forward to our time together today. I'm Jenny.
I'm Becca.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Kelly. And this week we are going to talk a little bit about some fun new adventures that we've had this summer or during the corona times, or maybe things that we've come back to revisiting now that we're sort of stuck at home all the time. And so I am going to put Katie on the spot and have her talk about her latest sporty outdoor adventure that she has just recently gotten hooked on.
I like that you said latest, as if it's like the latest in a long stream of like sporty things that I do.
Well, you're active.
I mean, that's sure. Yes. Yes, very active.
Remember when you did the tap dancing thing at the beginning of coronavirus?
I did that workout one time and it went really well. So yes, super active. But I did get up off my couch 2 weekends in a row now. So I think that makes me professional in terms of water sports, aquatic athletics, if you will. So I have recently, everyone's laughing at me on the screen. I've recently taken up stand-up paddle boarding, or supping, as the kids call it, S-U-P. I've been told if you really do it, you don't call it stand-up paddle boarding, it's a sup.
Is that like, what's up?
No, it's just the abbreviation, stand-up paddleboard.
But how do the youths know if they're talking about what's up or whether they're talking about stand-up paddle boarding?
You know, I'm only 2 weeks in, so I haven't figured out all the intricacies. We're struggling. We're really struggling.
We all are.
Oh my gosh. So 2 weekends in a row now. We have a reservoir. It's about 10 minutes out from my house, which provides the drinking water for our community. It's possible that I swam there as a college student. Illegally, you're not supposed to swim there. So I would definitely say don't do that. Don't swim in the reservoir, but it's beautiful. It's tucked away between hills, and it's just this really gorgeous place. And recently, maybe in the last year or so, a small business has opened that rents kayaks and canoes and sups, if you will. And so a friend of mine and I decided to rent a sup for 2 hours, and we had an absolute blast. And it's so much fun. And we did manage to stand up and paddle.
How hard is it to get up in that standing position while you're sort of wobbling in the middle of the water?
So the first time I did it, there was like my knees were literally knocking together. I was so shaky. So I think it's hard, and it's hard to maintain your balance once you get up. But I read somewhere, I did a lot of Googling the night before and read somewhere that one of the tricks is to fix your eyes on the horizon and not look down at the water. And so that really helps. But you have to anticipate falling in, which is actually kind of fun, and it cools you off. So I have fallen in only once, so I am proud to say. So yeah, you can stand up and paddle. You have to really work your abs. So I anticipate having a 6-pack like any day now. But then you can also just sit and like drift around with your feet in the water. My girlfriend and I like just lay down, and we held onto each other's paddles so we didn't like spread out all over the reservoir, and you can just lay down on your board. It has straps, so we strapped in some beverages and some snacks. So it's kind of amazing, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Were you, like, the next day, were you sore from supping?
Like, it's an awkward question, Becca.
I'm trying to be with it.
A little bit, but I was more sore from my terrible, terrible sunburn. So I should say since then I have invested in Modesty swim bottoms that are like leggings but have a little skirt, and the legging material is treated with SPF 50 material. And so I wore those out yesterday when I was supping, and I didn't get any sunburn on my legs, and they were super comfy and cool. And I think I'm gonna probably go out almost every weekend now if I can. I was realizing I was getting such cabin fever, and it's so hot right now in Kentucky that I don't like being outdoors much, being active, but out on the water it was a lot cooler. And then you can, if you fall in or if you accidentally tip over, you're in the water and it's cool, and it was way more pleasant than just being like outside in my yard.
Very cool.
So there you go. So,
and what's the name of the business where you can rent the old paddle board?
Yeah, the business is called Get Outside Kentucky, and it's just a little like storage shed where you complete the transaction, and some really fabulous people, you rent your gear and they drive it down to the reservoir for you, stick it in the water, and then when you're done they come back out and pick it up. So like it's super easy.
Oh, they do, like,
yeah.
They deliver it there for you.
They do.
Oh, that is so cool.
That's a good idea.
I think, yeah, and they're, I love local small businesses because they're so friendly and so helpful. So we went out yesterday with a couple other families, which also it's great social distant fun because you're all in your own boat and you're not right next to each other. And one person in our party was struggling with the particular kayak that he had, might have fallen in as soon as he got in the boat, tipped over a little bit, just a little bit. And they were so great. Like they went all the way back to their, headquarters or whatever, and brought back a couple other different boats that they thought would work better, and traded them out, and just super friendly and really fabulous. So
cool.
Yeah.
We have a
I
canoe.
like the idea of them having a headquarters, like an international spy.
I mean, it is a storage building with a little lawn, so pretty
So we have a canoe, and we have gone out to the reservoir before.
Yes.
But it is so hot, but when we take it, we have to do that ourselves and get the heavy canoe up on top of the vehicle and drag it out there, and then repeat that coming back. And so I think we've not felt much incentive to go out there lately, but you're making it sound very appealing.
You should. And we have a canoe as well. It's a long story as to why we have a canoe, but we took it out ourselves last weekend, and it was this elaborate, we don't have a rack on our car, and so it was this elaborate system of like pool noodles and like bungee cords. And I mean, it worked, but it was kind of a big ordeal.
Same.
My husband Larry and my older son Matthew used to actually go out a lot in the summer to Owsley Fork, and we had this basically like a blow up like canoe kind of a thing, and they used to take that out a lot, and it was great because it stayed deflated until they got there, and then they could blow it up. But it's I think long since dead. But it is a really great place to go out in the summer, and it's nice that we've got this Get Outside Kentucky.
And it's gorgeous. I mean, it's beautiful there all the time, but especially in the spring and the fall. I highly recommend, if you live in the central Kentucky area, to come check it out. It's beautiful.
Yes, and then on your way home, you can stop by the gas station on the corner where they have 24 varieties of soft serve ice cream.
Yes.
So, yeah, make it a little small town getaway. Do they have mango?
I think so.
Do they have mango?
Probably. I had Kahlua today.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. And it's soft serve, and then it's like the flavors are sort of weaved in. Like,
okay.
Yeah. Like it's pretty special.
It's at the corner of, it's Big Hill. It's at the Big Hill intersection there.
I know where it is, but I've never stopped in there because I didn't know the extent of the magic that was in that building.
You should go in.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got, I mean, like sandwiches and, you know.
Pickles, a pickle in a pouch, a big pickle.
That's the place that has the really good soup beans during the winter, right?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yes, that's what I've heard, is that they have really good soup beans in the
Ooh,
winter.
I'll have to go get
that
some.
wouldn't surprise me at all, though.
Which I feel like is a good segue to another activity many of us have been doing, a little food tour of our neck of the woods and eating our way through central Kentucky. Anyone?
I feel like that one of the things that I've taken up during the Corona times is eating more, which is exactly the opposite of what I needed to be doing. And so there are a couple of places that I have checked out that have done, I think, a good job in terms of social distancing. The place that comes to mind is the Side Porch Cafe in Waco. Which is just a fun little drive out there, and then it really is a crossroads. I mean, it is. I don't even know if I would call it a town. It really is just a crossroads, an old town, and an old building, but this amazing bakery. But they also do like breakfast sandwiches and lunches, and just so many baked goods and cupcakes and cannolis and ice cream. My sense is they have the best chocolate ice cream. So that has been a fun place for us to check out that we've enjoyed.
Plus, don't you think that crossroads kind of looks like a Hallmark movie is getting ready to happen, or a cozy mystery is getting ready to happen, or a romance novel? It's very old buildings, charming, love is in the air, or maybe murder. One of the two.
I think we've all experienced more takeout and delivery than I ever used to do.
As soon as the governor said it was our patriotic duty to get takeout, that was all the permission I needed.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like one kind of funny thing, this might be true in other states and areas as well, like alcohol is not universally available in our Commonwealth. And in our town, you can get alcohol by the drinks in certain places if you meet all these requirements. But one of the results of the Corona times is that restaurants can now serve carry-out cocktails, essentially. So like our local Mexican restaurants, you can pull up to their little window and get your meal to go and get a 32-ounce margarita.
And like on Sundays too, right?
Yeah, which by the way, a 32-ounce margarita is 85 Weight Watcher points. I just want people to know, worth every one. But yeah, so like I think as people are relying more and more on those small businesses and really wanting to support them, that's another little thing that has come along is the drive-through margarita. Drink it when you get home.
Yes, I have to say, driving through town with basically a sippy cup of margarita in my cup holder.
Yeah.
Even just on the 3/4 of the mile that it is between the Mexican restaurant and my house, it's one of the more surreal experiences.
There's some cognitive dissonance there, I think.
I will say, having like when we lived in Oregon, where you can, get alcohol whenever you want, and pretty much wherever you want. Even drive up, sippy cups was not a thing that we experienced there. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have gone to the drive-through liquor store for the first time during this era, because even though I've lived in Kentucky for a long time, when we first moved here, I thought people were making fun of me when they said there was such a thing as a drive-through at your liquor store. I didn't think it was really real. And my husband likes really weirdly named beers. And so I've had a lot of experiences now in the Corona times going through the drive-through and asking for these strange, like for Sweet Baby Jesus and for Cougar Bait. And The first time I went through the drive-through in the nearest liquor store to Berea, the lady there was talking about the end times. And so that did not really encourage me in my feelings about drive-through liquor stores. So I'm a reluctant convert to the drive-through.
I would like to second the plug for Cougar Bait, though. That's a beer by Country Boy. I don't like the name of it at all, but it's very tasty.
Yeah, it's
Throw
something
that
that
in
your
there.
spouse says, you can either pick me up some Cougar Bait or some Shotgun Wedding, and either of those would be fine.
Yep, those are favorites at our house too. The other thing that just occurred to me that I've done a couple of times, which I hadn't done in a long time, was been on the bike and walking paths in town. So Larry, my husband, and I have been out on our bikes, and really, I mean, we rode a good long way, and it was so fun. Like, I'm not an exercise enthusiast, would not be how I describe myself, but like, these are flat, flat trails, but alongside the stream, and through some fields and out towards the Pinnacles, which is our local hiking place, and it really is. I feel really glad that we have that here in town.
So trying to think how to start this. So before it got really hot,
I feel like there's going to be a confession.
There's no confession. Before it got,
what are you going to share?
nothing.
We're all leaning in. We're like, yes.
It's not that.
We're ready, Kelly.
It's not that scandalous. No, it's just that before it got really hot, I was spending a lot of time outside too, like Becca. And there's a really nice piece of property in our neighborhood where the people don't mind if you go up there, and there's a big hill and you go up and there's a big walking trail, and like right now there's all these wild blackberries growing up there. Anyway, so it's really nice, but it has just been so yucky the past couple of weeks that I have been just like sitting inside trying to figure out what to do. And the room where I have my office space, I'll have to post a picture. It's really hard to visualize it, but so one wall of this room is taken up by like my genealogy that I've been working on for 20 years periodically. Like, I don't constantly do it because I get so sucked in that it like takes away from everything else I do. So normally I'll do it like over Christmas break or like a time when I'm at home for an extended period. So I've been at home for an extended period. I haven't even touched the genealogy until this week. And now I'm back in it again. And I'm finding, and the interesting thing is, so I have like a paid subscription to Ancestry because you can make your own chart in there and stuff like that. And so the way Ancestry.com works is people like upload their own family photos and stuff, and their own trees, but you can go, if it's public, you can go and take them. And so if you have a relation, if you have the same people in common, sometimes you can get some like old family photos from like 4 generations ago. And so I found a bunch of those the other day on Jeff's side of the family. And so I'm having a lot of fun again doing genealogy. And that's us sitting in this room in front of the computer where I'm spending half my week at work anyway. But it's just it's that kind of activity where you're doing it and you don't realize that 4 hours have passed. You know what I mean? So it like totally engages my brain. So that's what I've been doing.
So I got sucked into this too, Kelly, and totally separately from you. I think someone else in my family mentioned that they were doing this, and so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna pop on and like check it out. And I started with like the free subscription, but it really is the kind of thing that you start doing. And because at Ancestry, like Kelly was sharing, if there are other trees that have been completed that connect with any of your relatives, they'll just like pop up like for your tree, like. So
as an option, like you can look at it and say, is that really the same person? And then you can say yes, and it just populates your tree. It's magic.
Yeah. And so it is. So you sort of never know when you click on a person, like,
you have to
what's going to come up.
Do you have to give consent for your tree to be populated, or does it just like?
I think it's that. Well, like Kelly said,
Please
it'll
populate
say,
my tree.
You can opt
say,
out of it being
like,
public, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like what'll happen is the screen will pop up and say, we think we have found this person's mother, or we think we found this person's father, and then you can click on it and kind of look at the information to see if it looks like it is the real connection. But a lot of times it is like, and so I mean, I've got like out to 1400s. Like,
Oh yeah, me too.
I mean, yeah, and it really is the kind of thing that that you could look up and like 3 hours have passed. Like, oh,
and I did that at one
I
point.
have to go to bed.
Yeah, I know. I did that at one point where my goal was to get as far back as I could because I wanted to see like the origins, right?
Yes,
but now what I'm doing is I'm trying to find like more stories and pictures and things of more recent people and try to build, sort of family stories.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I told you this, Parrish is a name in my husband's family.
Yeah.
So you are probably distantly related in some way.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there is a scandalous bit about my about my genealogy,
Yes.
and this is the last little bit. But okay, so Jeff and I are very distantly related. We have common ancestors that I found. 2 different sets.
Oh.
So it's both through Jeff's paternal line, but then we have a connection through my maternal line and a connection through my paternal line. One of them is like 6 generations back, and one is 9 generations back.
So my grandma used to always tell my Aunt Susie, because they had this very, I think, good-looking, fairly distant cousin. And my grandma would always point out to my Aunt Susie how closely Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip were related. And so therefore it would be okay for my aunt to sort of flirt with this very handsome distant cousin. But I don't really know that the interrelations of royalty should probably be your starting point there. But that is it. There's been some conflict in our household over the ancestry.com because we got into it, and we do have a paid subscription as well. But my husband discovered, he's got scandals. He's got people have been all kinds of different professions. My family have been exactly one thing since the Garden of Eden on both sides until 1970, and that was farmers.
Yeah.
And farming is wonderful, and it has brought me to where I am today. But, when everybody does the same thing on your family tree, it does get a little...
Oh, that's the same with me. My family, they're like Midwest. They all went to the Midwest, and they were homesteaders. Jeff's family... I mean, that's for all the slave owners and the plantations and all that stuff. So that's the other part of this that I'm doing is I'm just tracking exactly how much of and I'm doing this for my kids, right? So that's why I'm doing my husband's line and mine. And how much of what we have today was founded on, first of all, taking over the land of other people and then slavery.
Yeah. And also just, I keep thinking about like the fact that I can go back to the 1400s. Like, there are a lot of people in this country that might know grandparents if they're lucky, and then really don't have that.
And if you look at the written records, like the census for during like the slave owning time, there's no names for the slaves.
No,
you've got the name of the owner. You've got the name of the owner, and then just the number, how many slaves, and then it'll be like each age range, so it'll say like they had 5 under 2, and I see that and I'm just like, oh God.
Yeah, because so many of this are marriage certificates or census, right? And so and that,
or
those
bequests.
Yeah
when you die.
And that is so, I mean, that really up until the 1860s at best, that doesn't exist for large portions of the population. So I've been thinking about that a lot, as it's been, kind of ridiculously easy for me to...
I will give my family one little bit of credit for for weird things, which is a lot of the documents come out of these strange Quaker records on my dad's side, that are just a totally different way of record keeping. And little newspapers out of Quaker, communities. And that's interesting. So
Yeah,
I'll give them that.
I've got a strand of those too. Some Quaker stuff in my family. So that's interesting. And the other thing I did this time is I also paid for like a 3-month subscription to newspapers.com, because that connects with Ancestry. And so if you find a newspaper record, you can go and read like all these like either obituaries or articles about people, and it's really interesting. So I've not been doing any, so I've been sitting and not standing up on boards in the middle of the water.
You've been walking
and working my core.
You have been walking a lot.
I have.
Yeah.
I will not get a 6-pack from that, but
I feel like we need to come up with a cool acronym for it, though. That's as cool as SUP. Like GUP, genealogy.
It just doesn't work.
What about OWL, Out with Luna?
OWL.
Anyone?
I
like that.
Out.
I like that.
I am OWL several times a day, and in the middle of the night sometimes as well.
Precious. Precious animals we have.
We've talked about doing a show about our pets, but I don't know how interesting that would be to people.
Yeah, like y'all want to hear about my crazy old dog.
I do. So. Your dog eats some really interesting things, Jenny, and I think that could be very entertaining. I could talk about the different things that Larry has built for our cat.
Has he built an outside house for them yet?
No, but we've talked about it.
Because I think there are now rumblings. Now, this is different from an outhouse, as we have discussed in the past. This is an outside house for your cats, which is basically a cage with a lid. And I think there's going to be some rumblings in our house toward a outside cat house, which is different from a cat house in other ways, too.
We haven't talked about this, Katie, yet, and I don't know if this is the venue for it, but so you loaned us that 4-sided cage thing for Luna.
Yes.
She does not enjoy being in there. She would rather be tethered to a tree.
Interesting.
So maybe, Jenny, if you want to borrow that next and add a top to it, then you would have a cat house.
It's this,
and we could just rotate it all around.
The sisterhood of the traveling kennel.
Yes! Let's do it. So she's not going in the kennel anymore.
Well, now that Josie can't get up and down anymore, I might use it for her to be outside during the day. But she does not really like to be further than around 18 inches away from me now. So
you could get in with her. Put a little lawn chair in there.
Pass.
Okay, just an idea. Just an idea.
I also don't want to be in the kennel.
Especially if it has a lid.
If you are on Pinterest, there are quite a number of resources for building some pretty fancy outside cat houses. So I don't see that happening.
PVC pipe.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And you would build with like jungle gyms and stuff for them, right? Yeah. Where they could go up high and stuff.
Yeah, they do seem to be multi-story. I mean, cat story.
I don't really see us doing that. I think we're having a hard enough time, keeping our life together inside. But
you could put them out there at night, and then they wouldn't bother you at 3 a.m.
Exactly.
Oh, yes, they would.
Periodically.
They would find a way.
Yeah. Periodically, when we're like, we cannot have 5 cats inside our house, we start kind of imagining having outside cat houses.
So I just want to say, thinking of cats, which I don't do often, at some point we do need to do our podcast virtual simultaneous watching of the film Cats with some running commentary, right? Haven't we talked about that?
Is that available on any of the streaming?
It has to be.
It has to be.
For the sake of America, it has to be available somewhere.
It came out last Christmas. It's got to be out.
Yeah. The only way that I will watch that movie is with the three of you.
Okay.
That would probably be the only way that I could imagine watching that particular.
Okay, let's make a note.
I also, because I need to share that I have actually seen part of Cats in London, England, and we left in the middle of it.
You left
the movie or the theatrical production?
The actual theatrical.
You left
theatrical
that you paid money for. Yeah.
So here's the story, though. I was 18. I was there with my dad and my grandmother, and we had flown over and gotten there, and the tickets were for that night. There was no sleeping in between arriving in England at noon, and then we did stuff that day, and then that night we had tickets. And I just would say that I did not find myself immersed in the cat imaginings in the way that maybe I hoped I would be, and also we were nodding off, and so
you were not immersed in the cat imaginings.
No, do you like that?
I love musicals.
I do
but
too.
Cats is a place where I cannot go unless we are watching it as a group to make fun of it.
I'm
that's
the
about
same
it.
way, and I love musicals too. But I just could not. It did not happen. But I would love to watch it with you all. I think that would be fun.
I also think that might be the title of this episode. Something about being immersed in the cat imaginings. Just gonna throw that out there.
We are all going to be watching something together in common next week, right? We've all bought tickets. We haven't all bought.
I haven't bought my tickets yet.
Try Crowder.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going to watch the live stream of the Well-Read comedy group next, maybe 2 Fridays from now or something.
It's Friday.
Because what
August
else are you doing?
7th there's one at 6 p.m. and one at 9 p.m.
Oh.
Well, Lordy, I hope we bought 6 p.m. because 9 p.m. is too late for me.
All right. Does anybody have a relish that they wanted to share?
I can share my sleeping relish.
Yes, share your sleeping relish.
Because this might help some people out there.
Yeah, I'm excited about it for me, man. I'm going to check it out. So share.
For the past several years, I guess, my snoring has gotten worse. And it's much commented upon by my family, especially when we go on trips. And we have to take a super high, like a white noise machine that will block out the most intense noises because I snore a lot. And so it dawned on me that maybe that wasn't normal. And so I mentioned it to my doctor, and she suggested I do a sleep study. And so it turns out I have sleep apnea, a mild case of it, I guess, but enough to justify getting a CPAP machine, which is it's a machine that keeps your airway open at night. Because what happens if you have sleep apnea is you actually stop breathing. And then when you do that, your body wakes you up so that you'll breathe some more. So it's a good thing, but you don't get enough sleep. So you wake up not rested, and it's bad for your heart has to work extra hard, so it can cause high blood pressure and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, I got my CPAP machine this week, and the first time I used it, I woke up feeling much more rested, and I haven't snored at all. And it's weird looking. It looks like the one I have is a full mask. Some of them just go over your nose, but it kind of looks like a fighter pilot mask with a big tube coming out of it. And so it looks really bulky and uncomfortable, but I'm so used to it and I don't even notice it. Anyway, so that's my relish. I'm sleeping better. And
here's my question.
Yes.
I'm a side sleeper.
Me too.
And you can side sleep with the thing on?
Very easily.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to check this out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't snore, but my husband says sometimes I gasp in my sleep.
Yeah, so you might want to get that checked out.
I can share my relish that is gross, but also was really funny.
Yes, I'm clapping.
Any of you all who have been working at home over these last few months, as I have, no doubt have experienced multiple Zoom meetings, and I certainly have had my share of those as well. And, for the most part, I'm pretty well set up. I'm lucky enough to have my own office space and a desk and, just the whole bit. And there's a chair in here, and very often our elderly dog, Freeman, joins me and sleeps in our chair. And so the other day I was on a meeting, and it was an important meeting. There were not, it wasn't, it was a meeting that there were maybe like 6 or 7 of us. So, it was kind of a bigger meeting, but it was enough that we could all see each other. It wasn't like there were like 50 people and you weren't really paying attention to what other folks were doing. I mean, we were kind of right there all on the screen, and there were some, folks from other states who were directors of different programs and things like that. And so it felt like an important meeting that I needed to, be aware and be somewhat sane and, not a total doofus on. And so in the middle of that, and we were all unmuted because we were having conversations. So in the middle of that, my dog gets up off his chair and comes under my desk and starts just gagging. And I did really quickly turn off my microphone. But I mean, he just like completely and totally just yacked all over, like underneath my desk and like on my shoe. And like, I was just trying, because on Zoom, like you're so focused in on everybody's faces. So like I had to just play it cool and pretend like it wasn't happening and just kept nodding and all of that. So,
Becca.
For like 10 minutes, and then I got off. But so yeah, poor Freeman, he's fine. But I don't know why. It just, I don't know what happened. But he's fine now. But it was really gross. It was just so gross.
Over the next several weeks, we're talking about having some contests and things to do to promote the podcast, give out some stickers and things, some t-shirts. I think when we do that, maybe we need to get people to share their worst Zoom moments of the quarantine.
I love it. I love that idea. There's got to be somebody out there that was worse than my dog cooking. But
listeners, we want to hear from you. So you can find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at What We Said Pod. Tell us your worst Zoom stories and be on the lookout for as we get some more merch in and what we're going to do with that. That's What We Said is recorded separately in our homes, produced by Troy Price, edited by Kelly Smith, logo designed by Jessica Hawley, and music by official daughter of the pod, Ellie Green, who just told me she leaves for college in less than a month, and it is true. Remember, whatever you're doing this week, #relish.